implementing NADA in disaster situations. He's also the developer of enotropic therapy, which you're welcome to ask him about, and trained in Ayurvedic medicine. And he lives in Van Buren, Missouri.
Thank you. Really a pleasure to be here, and I'll just zip through these because we have a limited amount of time, but this was basically a year ago in Kansas City. This is where, I think that's Mr. Whitaker, if I'm not mistaken. The next day, I graduated along with about 30 other people? 34. And went home blissfully. The next slide, please. Okay, and the next day was May 22nd. It's when the tornado hit Joplin, Missouri. And within another 2 days, I believe this was the 26th, we had organized a training with Acupuncturists Without Borders. This was Melanie Rubin that came from Austin, I believe. Really wonderful folks. There's, oh gosh, and this is terrible, a little stage fright, folks, please forgive me. But there was Sage Norberry, Vinnie McKinney, Nate Wax, Stacy Flathers, several other folks that I had just finished the training with in Kansas City had come together for this training. More folks that had been in Kansas City showed up during our deployments. Next one, please. All right, so I deployed. I went to Joplin, and we had made arrangements with the Red Cross to have a little corner to be able to work in one of their areas. It was called the Bridge. So next one, please. This is me driving into town. This is when and as these weren't staged. This was a news crew, and it genuinely was as real as it gets. Next one, please. This was the hospital, 8-story hospital. All of the windows had been knocked out, or sucked out, rather. Many patients. I think there were 14 people killed during the storm here. This entire structure was shifted 8 to 12 inches off of its foundation. Next one, please. The truth is, I was trying to find where we were to be. Next one, please. This is what I was directed through. And this was basically 7 days after the disaster. This is as the cleanup was really getting underway. Next one, please. Again, just another one, and the next as well. These are just some shots, but this is what I was slowly getting to my destination and had to stop for a moment. These were the scenes that were right outside the window of my car. Next, please. Thank you. This is where I was led to go. This was a Salvation Army store. Had just been opened about 2 weeks before. And this is where I had been directed to go. So next one, please. This was the tent that they had set up and where I had been sent. There's a fan in the back, big, tall, round fan. And the director, very kind person, and I believe he was Dutch, says that I could have a little space back in the corner. It was about 8 by 12 feet. So next, please. Within about 4 days, they had willingly expanded our space to about 20 by 40 feet. Actually, we had metal folding chairs to start with. And they replaced those with the white chairs. Stacy Flathers and Abba Anderson went out and negotiated a deal with Walmart to give us these zero grab chairs. I think they were around $40, and they gave them to us for 20 apiece. So they were very kind. That was a sign that we had. And the ear seats for kids, remember that. We'll come back to that next, please. This was my mobile acupuncture clinic. And my family had set up a bed in the back of it for me. So that's where I went, and that's what I went prepared with. I had a couple of my own camping chairs in there to set up, a tarp that would come off the back of my wagon and so forth. Next. This was my inspiration. It was, excuse me, I thought I was going to be able to do this. But this gentleman had come out of the basement of this house. 5 of his family members had dug their way out of the basement of this house and survived the storm in this structure. So, and he was so gracious, so kind, and came over to visit and check and see if we needed anything. So, next, please. Some more, just as I was going back and forth, the Salvation Army was really just a joy and a wonder to watch. Next, please. This kid from St. Louis had been down there for 10 days by the time we got there. I put him in the chair. His first experience with acupuncture, he hadn't slept maybe 2 hours every night, he said. So it took about 5 minutes for him to be in this condition. Next. Here he is, a little more vibrant. Next. These gentlemen, the first responders, were very, very kind, very professional, and were very stern, very businesslike. But these guys came in very early on. I had just learned about the ear seats, magnetic seats. So I'm going to try this. I thought a lifetime supply, which I went through in about 2 weeks. So I was sending these guys out, and I'm saying, you know, I've read that these help to mediate temperature. And it was 90 degrees plus, wind blowing all the time. So I put seeds on both of these guys after I needled them and sent them back out. The big guy on the left came back, he says, "What's on those seeds?" And I said, "Excuse me, what's wrong, sir?" He said, "Well, I did what you told me. I was out directing traffic, and they had flak jackets on, Kevlar jack boots. Really an unpleasant situation." He says, "I rubbed those seeds, and it felt like an air conditioner came up through under my uniform." It was my first experience with those, and I did it with basically everyone after that, particularly the first responders. Next, please. Next couple and next. This is basically chairs full, which is what we shot for all the time, to keep the chairs full. Next. This guy came in, and I didn't do the intel, my wife did. He came in, he says, "My buddies told me that I need to come in here to have this work." And I said, "Well, please sign in, and there's a photo release there, so if you don't mind your picture being taken." "No, I don't want my picture taken." He sat there about 5 minutes. He goes, "Hey, you know what? I apologize. You know, it's okay. Give me that thing. You can have my picture if you want. And take one for my wife, because she's not going to believe this." Very, very nice. Next, please. This was us. This is Stacy and myself working. She was there probably 18 of the 22, 23 days that I was there. So she was really absolutely just a blessing to have around, and worked first one there, last one out every day. Next, please. my wife Daphne came to join us, and my daughter. I'm not sure if we have her picture, but next lady. This Daphne treating another young lady. This lady had lost 5 family members in the storm and had to take a Sharpie and write the names and ages of each individual on their corpses. She came at least every other day, and we didn't have a lot of talking. I tried to keep it down as much as I could, but folks were discussing about the benefits that they were receiving, and she says, I get 20 minutes every day. That's what I get from it. 20 minutes free of the reality. Yeah, that was enough for me. Next, please. Another, just treating another person. Next, please. This was Nate. He was another just a dogged determination, just there all the time. And he drove all the way from Arkansas every day, about 70 miles each way. Next, please. This was the other young gentleman's father. He was a photojournalist from St. Louis. Next. That may have been a copy. That's the chairs full again. Next. And this, we had gotten kicked out of one tent and had to move to another. So this was about week 3, I think. Next, please. Next. And this was these folks' reality. Everything was gone, but their grace and dignity. They were all so very cool, and the children, next. This was one of the project managers for the Salvation Army. She did everything she could to facilitate for a smooth operation for us. She's the one that gave us more and more space all the time. Next, please. This little girl, both of her parents were in wheelchairs on oxygen, and every day she would come to the tent pushing both wheelchairs. Sometimes she'd push one across the street, go back and get her mother or father next. Just another shot of my ride. And okay. This little guy, about the first week I was there, woman came in just absolutely white, just totally white. She says, I need something. I would love to have a treatment, but my son is autistic. He's a handful. I don't know if we can manage it. So I said, you sit in a chair, hold him, I'll get you needled, and I'll take care of him. My grandson has Asperger's, and I thought, well, I can handle this. He was touch-aversive. He was disassociative. Did not care if every day was Tuesday. He did only barely endured me holding him while his mother had the treatment. I said, again, these seeds, I don't have much experience with them, the beads, rather, the gold-plated magnetic beads, and told her what I had just learned about him. Said, I'll put some on him if you'd like. So she said, oh, of course, whatever you think. I did. I just wrestled him and got him onto the back of posterior shin men. And next, please. Okay. I went home for a couple of days. I couldn't stand it at home. I had to get back to Joplin where things made sense to me. So I was getting into a real PTSD thing myself. This little guy came up, and I think I was wearing these pants. He tugged on my pants leg and said, you remember me? You put some seeds on my ears. One of them fell off, and my mom took the other one off, and I told her I wanted to come back and get some more. You remember me, don't you? And I really didn't, because he was looking me in the eye